Pardon me for chatting away and saying, oh, you told me it was on. Closer? That's as close as I can get. All right. Let me try that again. Good morning, I'm Laurel Whitehouse.
Good morning,
My pronouns
Laurel.
are she, her, hers, and I am a member of your parish committee. It's great for me to be here in person this morning after a prolonged absence from Wayland, and it's wonderful to see all your faces. I've been missing them. So we are glad you are joining us online or in person here in our beautiful sanctuary. A special welcome to visitors, especially any of those who might be with us for the first time. We invite you to join us downstairs or online for community time. And this morning, that will be following the annual meeting, which will begin at the close of our worship service. So our mission here at the First Parish in Wayland is to build community, search for meaning, deepen our spirituality, and make a better world. If you have questions about First Parish or Unitarian Universalism, someone from the membership team will be at the welcome table during social hour downstairs to greet you and answer questions. And the Reverend Deborah Bennett and our Director of Lifespan Exploration, Kate Holland, will also be happy to answer questions and will enjoy meeting and talking with you. A big thanks to all our service participants whose names are in the order of service. Please remember to silence your frisky cell phones for our time together. And let's take a moment now to say hello to one another, including a wave to those online. So this week we have much going on. The first of our two special announcements is from Lee Anderson, our parish committee chair.
Good morning. I come with good news today. The Contract Minister Search Committee and the Parish Committee are pleased to announce that we have completed our search and are delighted to introduce Reverend Lisa Perry Wood to serve as our minister beginning on August 1st for next year. Reverend Lisa Perry Wood served as senior minister in Brookline for 5 years and comes to us most recently from First Unitarian Church in Worcester, Mass., where she serves as sabbatical minister. Reverend Lisa and her wife Zoe live in Lexington and have attended the Fallen Church and First Parish in Lexington. Before pursuing ministry, Reverend Lisa was founder and executive director of Lynn Community Charter School. She had multiple positions in counseling, hospice work, and served on the adjunct faculty at Regis College. She is a delightful, warm, engaging person, and we're really happy about this. This afternoon, right after the annual meeting, an e-blast will go out to the congregation with a long bio and a great picture of Reverend Lisa. So, thanks very much.
And our second announcement is from the Juneteenth celebration team.
Woohoo! That's me. It's me today. Hi. Hey, I don't know if you know this, but right down the street, there is a congregation that's Unitarian Universalist as well in Sudbury. Did you know that? And then a little further, there's one in Framingham. And so I just found that out, and I was like, hey, why don't we all get together and do something really cool? So we are. So, and here's your part of it. So on May 31st, which is very soon from now, we are going to celebrate Juneteenth. We're going to start the whole month of celebrating Juneteenth, but we're going to start May 31st with an amazing concert at First Parish in Framingham. And we're going to kick off that concert with a dinner. Now the concert's 100% free, so you just show up for that at 7:30, but the dinner is not 100% free because we want to support a Black-owned business. So we've enlisted Mill City Barbecue and Brew, sorry they're not bringing the brew, but barbecue to cater our dinner. But we only have 25 tickets that we can sell here for First Parish in Wayland so that there's an equal number of people from each congregation. So in addition to celebrating Juneteenth and helping a Black-owned business, we get to join together and show our support and our congregation to other congregations. So we've only sold like half of these tickets, and this is a week away, and you know what's going to happen next. Kate's going to walk around, and she's going to ask who thinks they might be interested. And if you think you might be interested in coming to this amazing barbecue, we're talking Southern barbecue, people. We're talking, I don't think there's ribs. We're talking pulled pork. We're talking brisket. We're talking fried chicken. We're talking macaroni and cheese. We're talking coleslaw. We're talking baked beans.
Deborah, is it Memorial Day weekend?
No, that is not Memorial Day weekend. Some people were afraid of that. It is not Memorial Day weekend. It is Friday, May 31st. So Kate's going to walk around so we can continue with our service. But if you think you might be interested, take a ticket. And then downstairs, there's going to be, who's selling tickets? Oh, Jay Woodruff and Nancy Farrell are going to be selling tickets downstairs during our very brief coffee hour. Okay, we want to make a good show. Yes, thank you, Susie. All right, I'm not going to just keep going, but I'm going to trust we're going to get these 25 tickets sold, right? And it's going to be fun. Oh, they're $45. But that's like an all-you-can-eat buffet, and it's a wonderful thing. Yes, awesome. All right, thank you.
Okay, and now let us breathe a moment together. Breathing in and out. Inhaling peace and exhaling love as we center ourselves and turn our hearts and minds to worship. Lee and Charlie Anderson will light our chalice for us this morning.
With open minds and loving hearts, we gather to search for meaning, to care for one another, and to work together for a better world.
And in my role as the chair of the Welcoming Congregation Committee here at First Parish Wayland, I'm going to invite Mira Wernig and Olivia Gonski to light 2 candles for us. The rainbow candle is in celebration of the 20th anniversary of same-sex marriage legalization in Massachusetts, which occurred on May 17th, 2004, just after midnight. And members of this congregation created signs, went in and held those signs in front of the State House, met with our state representative Susan Pope at the time, and helped behind the scenes in many ways. Also, Olivia lit a transgender color candle for International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia. So, with the lighting of these 2 candles, that completes our final task in becoming officially recertified as a welcoming congregation by the Unitarian Universalist Association, our 3rd time in 6 years. So go First Parish Wayland. Stand up for a second. If you are under 20 years old, stand up and wave to us. Stand up and wave. No, I want to see the over-the-head waves. Congratulations. You have always had same-sex marriage as a legal option in Massachusetts. Stand up and wave if, during the last 20 years, you have attended a same-sex marriage here in Massachusetts. Stand up and wave. And congratulations, all of us have seen love in action. All right, Polly and our choir will now treat us to Everything Possible, words and music by Fred Small.
Told
was amazing, Kit. Oh, did anybody else cry during that? I don't know. Yeah, it's just such a powerful, powerful message that we just need to remind ourselves over and over again. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend Deborah Bennett, and it is a delight to be here with you as your interim minister. And a delight, we have a wonderful day planned. We have all kinds of special things. The bell choir is here. We're going to welcome new members, and we are going to celebrate that love is love and celebrate that you can marry whomever you will. And to begin, I want to begin with this piece. It's called A Protest and a Party. It's by Reverend Hannah Roberts Villeneuve. They say this: people sometimes ask, is pride a protest or a party? And the answer is, of course, yes. And why not? Why not rejoice as we resist, dance as we demand change, celebrate as we create community that delights in all of who we are? So bring all of that with you this morning. Bring your policy demands and bring your glitter. Bring your rainbow socks, bring your emptiness you feel for the siblings gone too soon. Bring your Gloria Estefan remix. Bring your tender hope for change. Bring your most garish eyeshadow. Bring your spirit, tattered and battered by a world that seems to insist on choosing fear and hate. Gather up all these things and bring them here to a place where we don't have to shoulder those burdens or celebrate these joys alone. Come, let us worship together. Let's rise in body or spirit and sing together. Our opening hymn is 325. That's the gray hymnal. It's called Love Makes a Bridge. We are very fortunate this morning to have some endless joy in welcoming 6 new members to our congregation this morning. Yay! I'm going to invite Steve Rogers and Pat Sims, who are the co-leaders of our membership team. They are going to introduce our new members. New members, as your name is called, I'm going to invite you to just come forward. Lee, maybe you can stand by the membership book. And you'll sign our membership book. And hopefully you were able to pick up one of those pretty brochures that Jada made for us. They're beautiful to introduce our new members. So Pat and Steve, I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning, everybody. We've got quite a celebration here this morning. Okay, we'll make an adjustment. Is that better?
Yes.
Oh, that's much better. I can tell here. We have quite a celebration today, and we're glad to be here. This morning, the first family that I'd like to call up is Nick and Kate Sambuco and family. They've moved to Wayland in 2016. They're the proud parents of Cole, Eva, and Luca, ages 10, 8, and 5. Kate works for a nonprofit that advocates for people with disabilities, and Nick works for an investment management firm In their spare time, if they have any, they're outside gardening and tending to their much-loved beehives. Kate is also one of the two most recent members of the Wayland School Committee.
Awesome. And new members, I'll ask you to stay standing up here because then we have a little covenant that we will share together. And we have a little gift for you. May the plant's growth symbolize your growth in our community, and if the plant dies, that means nothing. Don't take that.
And I'd like to have Werner Salinger come forward. Werner was born in Berlin, Germany, and he survived the Holocaust. He earned a BA in political science. He was a United States Air Force intelligence officer stationed in Germany for 3.5 years at the height of the Cold War. He interrogated German prisoners of war. He's married to the daughter of a German soldier who served in Hitler's Nazi army. They have 4 adult children. He said very adult. 6 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren. He's the author of 7 books. The most recent is titled Toward a More Equal World. And I must share something that Werner did not include in his bio, but I learned it yesterday when I was Googling Werner Salinger. Do so, and you will be amazed at the information that is there. One thing in particular struck me was that Werner and his wife, Martha, will be married next January for 70 years. And this past January, CBS shared their story among 3 others of, before Valentine's Day, a couple whose love endured daunting experiences. So you might want to Google him.
Wow. Next, I'd like to invite Mira to come up, Mira Werning. Mira knew from the earliest days, 10 years old, she wanted to be an artist. She's continued that over the years. She was selling her art at age 10 in her Boston neighborhoods. She went on to obtain degrees in healthcare management from Eastern Nazarene College and from Northeastern University. She worked in the nonprofit sector for over 25 years, and today, Mira is a life coach, artist, and owner of Studios, which she started to bring creative experiences to others, wanting to offer her artistic talent, ability, and excitement about the arts to other people. She has 4 adult children, 3 grandchildren, and lives in Natick with her partner, and her partner's teenage son, and of course, the poodle, Saka.
Welcome.
And now I'd like to have Olivia Gonski come up. Olivia grew up in Wayland, graduating in 1993. She loves nitro cold brewed coffee and all things mosaic and stained glass. And you should ask her to show you some of her wonderful stained glass creations. You're in for a real treat. When she's not in her Natick studio with her son Tom and partner Mira, Olivia can be found building tree houses, blacksmithing, and bookbinding.
Next, I'd like to invite Grace Rising to come up, someone we've gotten to know. Grace was raised as a Southern Baptist, but her family joined the UU Church in 1969. She's belonged to UU churches since that time. During her 50 years at the Birmingham, Michigan UU Church, Grace did everything. She taught every level of Sunday classes, RE committee member, and chair to the board president. She also was a leader in the homeless shelter involvement, recruiting volunteers, supervising the organization, and running a once-a-year hosting week at the church. Grace lived in Wellesley with her daughter and with her family for 8 years there in Wellesley. Moved here last year to the residence at the Payne Estate. She has 3 adult children who live in Wellesley, Concord, and downtown Boston. And she also has 4 grandchildren.
Awesome. So we would like to do a little covenant together, so I'm going to invite Lee to the thing. Yeah, all you guys have to do is say we do, so you don't need a script for that. Everyone else, you might want to look at the green script, because at the end we have something to say. But Lee will begin.
We at First Parish in Wayland welcome you as new members of our community this morning. You come with your own stories, gifts, and ideas to share. We do not have a creed of beliefs you must affirm, but ask that you engage in this community with an open mind and loving heart. We welcome you all and invite you to join with us in nurturing and sustaining a community committed to searching for meaning, caring for one another, and working together to make a better world.
By signing our membership book, you affirm that you are in sympathy with the spirit and purposes of First Parish and Unitarian Universalism, and that you sincerely desire to join this congregation. Joining First Parish as a member means being part of this gathered congregation, speaking out on the future of the congregation, offering and receiving the gifts of this gathering, supporting others, and being supported in return. If you will join us in this mission and this work, please say, I will. Could you be a little bit more enthusiastic? Since I do this when I, officiate weddings sometimes. So will you? All right.
2 of our new members also bring their children into our community. I will ask all of our children of the congregation to continue to welcome these children into your play, your growth, your learning, and your love. If you will do this, children, okay, this is your moment to yell really loud in the church. Please say, we will. We will! Yes!
The strength of any congregation emerges from the members and friends of all ages that make up the community. So let all who wish to respond and welcome to these new members by saying with me the words in the order of service. And I don't know if they're going to be on the chat or not. But they're definitely in your order of service. Let's say these together. We receive you with open hands and hearts. As you join us, we once again renew our commitment to this religious community. We are proud and happy you are. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you all. Thank you all for the beautiful welcome. And I think Kate's going to lead us as we sing out the children.
Yep. Everybody, we're going to go off to our seat classes. Go out the back. Okay? You guys, bring your voices. Sing them on out.
No. Well, once upon a time, most folks used to use the offering plate to fulfill their pledges. Nowadays, we know that many of you just click on the website or send things in automatically or have transfers from your bank. But passing the offering plate was never just meant to be a practical exercise in collecting donations. It has always been part of a ritual that we do each Sunday. So even if your pledge is paid, it is worthwhile for you to bring even just $1 to drop in the plate each Sunday morning as a ritual reminder of the form of love we call generosity. So let it be a reminder that it feels good to give as our plate is passed. The offering will now be given and gratefully received. you think of the sunshine or nature that offers you love, or yourself. Imagine yourself being washed in love. Imagine yourself letting go of what does not serve love. Know that this is one of the many things that connects us as humans, the ability to love, to be loved, and to give love. As you feel ready, I'll invite you to open your eyes if they've been closed, and we'll share the love of our joys together, and we'll share holding up our sorrows together.
Good morning. I'm Ted Barnes. My pronouns are he, his, him, and I'm a lay minister of this congregation. This is the time of our service we set aside to acknowledge the joys and sorrows that we all hold. In both our sharing and in our witness to affirm our covenant to care for one another, each Sunday we light a vigil candle in recognition of the pain and suffering being experienced around the world due to ongoing war and violence. May this small act help us unite in our prayer for the end to all suffering. If you have a personal joy or sorrow you would like to share, please feel welcome to come forward now or raise your hand and I'll bring you the mic. Those online can type your joys or sorrows in the chat and I will read them, and I just have one to do before you. Sorrows not spoken, may we hold in our hearts those who have spoken, those they have named, and those we hold in silence. May it be so.
Thank you, Bell Choir, for a beautiful year of music. It's so much harder than it looks, and it looks hard. It was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to celebrate the removal of barriers to love. Rumi once wisely said, "Our task is not to seek for love, but to merely seek and find all the barriers that we have built up against it." And indeed, our society we live in seems determined to build barriers to love far too often. But marriage, no matter who partakes of it, ultimately is a wild and daring and perhaps even ludicrous response to that powerful feeling of love. And who has the right to dictate its course? Because we all know love is love. And just so you know, I wrote love with capital letters. But truly, why would we want a society where people were limited in their love? Don't we want a society where people are committed to each other, to care for each other, to cherish each other? Of course, marriage was not always about love, though, was it? There's this wonderful book by E.J. Graff called What is Marriage For? It's an extensive study of the history of marriage and the political and social purposes marriage has performed over thousands of years. Her sections are entitled in this order: money, sex, babies, kin, order, and finally, heart. Indeed, the history of marriage is long. Who gets to marry whom? Who must pay whom to have or be willing to take a bride? Which religions get to claim the rules for what marriage is? And the reasons and consequences of marriage are all part of this meandering story of marriage. Graff's book tells about the time in the 19th century when courts were trying to decide whether women could own property. One Maryland judge refused to recognize his state laws which gave property to a wife. He wrote, get this, "What incentive would there be for such a wife ever to reconcile differences with her husband? It gets better. To act in submission to his wishes and perform the many onerous duties pertaining to her sphere. Would not every wife abandon her husband and her home?" Heaven forbid. E.J. Graff writes that you could tell the anti-reformers were losing when they started insisting that any change of ownership of property would bring down God, nature, and civilization. The proposed reforms were not contrary to the laws of man, but to the laws of God, they said. And they set at defiance the experience of every country in Christendom and the common sense of mankind. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. Graff writes, "Those who fear change are not particularly inventive from one age to the next. They're always predicting an uprush of infidelity, vice, divorce, the breakup of families and society, a change in marriage from something holy to something merely sexual, and of course, the death of marriage and the death of civilization itself." But despite the fear-mongering, thankfully, we have made some progress when it comes to the rights of women to own property, the rights of women to decide whether to stay in a marriage, and the rights for all people to marry whomever they love. But it's not been easy, and I think it's important to not forget both the victories and the hardships of the journey to marriage equality. And it seems that for each of the positive steps forwards, there's always seems to be a backlash and a reaction. Many look to June 28, 1969 as a turning point in the modern gay rights movement. It was then that police entered the Stonewall Inn in Greenwich Village, New York City. On a routine raid aimed at arresting gay patrons, they encountered violent resistance from the gay community. It was the event known as the Stonewall Riots, which I'm sure you're familiar with. It lasted for 6 days. Of course, I must note this wonderful idea, which I just learned about, popularized by Charles Kaiser's 1997 book, The Gay Metropolis, where it is proposed that it was high emotions over Judy Garland's death just 1 week prior that contributed in a significant way to the outcry at Stonewall, which happened just hours after her funeral. Who knew that? Did you do that? I thought that was interesting. Garland, as we might know, was known as a very great supporter for gay rights and an icon to many. In the book, Kaiser wrote, "No one will ever know for sure which was the most important reason for what happened next, the freshness in the minds of Judy Garland's funeral, or the example of all the previous rebellions of the 60s, the civil rights revolution, the sexual revolution, the psychedelic revolution, each of which had punctuated gaping holes in crumbling traditions of passivity, Puritanism, and bigotry." Well, whatever the trigger, the following year, Jack Baker and Michael McConnell became the first same-sex couple to apply for a marriage license. It was in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Of course, their license was rejected, and they lost their appeal. But then in 1973, Maryland became the first state to ban same-sex marriage in response to fear. Then we fast forward to '96, and the Democratic President Bill Clinton signed the Defense of Marriage Act into law. Sounds like a good name, doesn't it? But the Defense of Marriage Act defined marriage as the union of one man and one woman. A little progress happened in 2000 when Vermont became the first state to legalize civil unions between same-sex partners. A year later, in 2001, the Netherlands actually became the first country to legalize same-sex marriage. And then, as we know, we were celebrating today on May 17th, 2004, at 12:01 a.m., 20 years and 2 days ago, and 6 months after the landmark decision, the doors opened at Cambridge City Hall, and 262 same-sex couples obtained marriage license, starting with Marcia Hams and Susan Shepard. The first same-sex couple to wed in Cambridge that day was Tanya McCluskey and Marcia Kadish at 9:15 a.m. They wasted no time. Of course, backlash ensued. And between 2004 and 2006, 23 states banned same-sex marriage outright. In 2008, California, often thought of as a liberal state, banned same-sex marriage by popular vote on Prop 8. The following year, the California State Supreme Court upheld that decision. And then in 2011, President Barack Obama instructed the Department of Justice to stop defending DOMA in court, stating that it was unconstitutional, but it took him a whole nother year until 2012 to actually publicly state his support for same-sex marriage. So that was only 12 years ago. Right? I think to Laurel's point, it's sometimes when these changes happen, we think, if you're younger than 20, you think that that's always been the case, right? But it was only 12 years ago when a president of the United States stood up and showed support for same-sex marriage. In 2013, several Supreme Court decisions removed barriers for same-sex couples. 7 states legalized same-sex marriage that year. And then in 2014, the U.S. Supreme Court decided to not rule on whether states can ban same-sex marriage, and immediately after that, more states joined suit in legalizing same-sex marriage in their state, bringing the total to 30. And it wasn't until finally June 26th of 2015, so again, less than 9 years ago. I don't know, when I was doing my research for this and getting these dates, I was just really stunned. Are you all stunned too? It just feels like it should have been longer ago. Really? It took us to 2015, when finally the United States Supreme Court legalized same-sex marriage in all 50 states. The decision made the United States the second country in North America, after Canada, and the 17th country in the world to allow same-sex marriage. Isn't that interesting? We were number 17. We think we're so great. Today we celebrate the 20th anniversary of legalization of same-sex marriage in Massachusetts, and we celebrate the removing of barriers to love. But as we do, let's also be humble. Let's humbly remember that although we UUs like to pride ourselves in being out in the front lines of change, equity, and justice, we as a group too have not always answered the call to love as quickly as we might have. On the positive note, I read that back in as early as the 1950s, there were some ministers who were performing same-sex unions. And at the same time, the UUA published Your Sexuality, which was the precursor to AL, Comprehensive Sexuality Education, which actually said that homosexuality was perfectly normal. So we were cutting edge in those areas. But the early 1970s, some Unitarian Universalist ministers were performing commitment ceremonies for same-sex couples. But there's also been heartbreaking stories for us. In 1969, the same year as the Stonewall riots, James Stoll was the first Unitarian Universalist minister to come out as gay. But after he came out, he was never able to get a job as a minister again. And into the 1980s and 1990s, and even in the early 2000s, congregations struggled with whether to embrace same-sex unions, excuse me, and even more so, the conversation about same-sex marriages. I don't know who remembers what happened here, but I'm going to guess there was at least some resistance from some people at some point. Lesbians and gay men have not always felt welcomed in our congregations. That is a fact. And not all congregations readily embraced doing the work to become welcoming congregations when that program was launched by the UUA in 1989. I celebrate that we do that here, and we will continue to commit to doing that recertification, because it's not something that happens just once and done, right? We don't just check it off the box and we're good to go. It's continual work. I found it interesting that back in the early 2010s, I was listening to sermons of my colleagues speaking to their people and trying to convince them that same-sex marriage was good. So this was even in the early 2010s in some states, not Massachusetts, but in some states. So I don't want to share these things to shame us, but I do want, and we're rain on our parade today, our party today, but I do want to remind us of two very important things as we celebrate today. First, that we all are learning. The truth is that change can take time, and it does take time sometimes. There are those among us that still may have some barriers to love that we need to work through, and I hope that we are here for each other as we do that work. And that brings me to the second thing for us to remember. I think we need to remember that love will always prevail. At least that's my theology. Love is love, and I believe it's a force that is powerful. I believe that we are at our best when we are open and loving and accepting of each other. And we are at our best when we commit to finding and removing the barriers for all people that we have put up against love. Today we celebrate the big love embraced by the legalization of same-sex marriage. And today, let us not forget, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and non-binary people are continually under attack from legislation in various states that seek to limit the meaning of love and to limit their lives. Families in all sizes and with various makeups of people just want to love each other and have the same rights as everybody else. The ACLU is tracking 515 anti-LGBTQ bills across the country. And after watching Roe fall at the hands of a very conservative Supreme Court, we cannot make any assumptions about same-sex marriage or other rights. So let us celebrate today, yes. Let us celebrate love. Let us lift up our voices and declare all together that love is love and that every human being has the right to love whoever they love and marry whoever they love. And today, let us also recommit to the work that is before us. Let us remember Rumi's wise counsel. Our task is not to seek for love, but to seek and find all the barriers that we have built up or others try to build up against it. And now, by the power vested in me, I pronounce you all committed to love. Say, I do. I know we're running a little bit late, but let's go ahead and sing. I think we'll skip the chalice extinguishing. Let's go right into our closing hymn. It's 10:14. That's in the teal hymnal. I want to note that the words have been changed by the author of this hymn. So if you can remember as you sing, instead of singing standing on the side of love, we're singing answering the call of love. Okay, so 114 in the teal hymnal, answering the call of love. Please rise and bow to your spirit.
Thank you.
take this good work out into the world and spread the love. Thank you, everybody.